The beeping was soft, too soft. Each tone dragged like it had to pull itself through the air. Tubes ran across his face and arms, one into his mouth, one into his neck. Another taped near the collarbone. Grandpa's skin looked thin, almost see-through. A hospital blanket weighed on his chest like a burden he couldn't shake. His breath was shallow, so small I had to lean in to catch it. I held his hand. Still warm, still fighting. Outside the ICU, glass nurses walked by without looking in. People talked, laughed, ate vending machine crackers. The world kept moving, but my world was in that room. I reached for my phone, found Dad's contact, pressed call. It rang once, twice, he answered. Background noise waves, clinking glasses, distant music. I said, "Dad, he's slipping. You need to come back." He laughed. He was laughing, not a chuckle. A loud open laugh. Waves crashed behind him. Glass clinked. A woman's voice asked if he wanted more wine. He said, "Send me updates. I'm not cutting my vacation short for an old man who won't make it." Click. The line went dead. I stared at the screen, felt my fingers numb. The air in the room changed, not colder, just emptier. That moment, it wasn't the machines, not the ICU, not the sight of Grandpa's pale face. It was his voice, final, flat, like Grandpa already meant nothing. And in that moment, I felt something split inside me. He didn't deserve forgiveness. Not anymore. He deserved the fall, and I was going to give it to him. Slow, sharp, real. When I was 6, Dad called me a mistake. Said I ruined everything Mom wanted. Mom didn't argue. She just walked past me like I wasn't there. But Grandpa knelt down, looked me in the eyes, and said, "You're not a mistake. You're mine." He taught me to hold a wrench, how to clean spark plugs, how to play chess without saying a word. He never raised his voice. He didn't need to. When I failed a test, he patted my shoulder and said, "Good, now do it better." He called me Tiger. Said it like I could survive anything. Said it like I was already strong. He didn't talk much, but when he did, it stayed. Even now, sitting beside him in that ICU, his voice still echoed inside me. And I wasn't letting him go. I didn't leave the hospital, not once. I slept in that chair, a thin blanket over my lap, shoes never off. Nurses changed shifts, doctors came and went. I stayed. Some nights I whispered to him. Other nights I just watched his chest rise one breath at a time. 2 weeks passed, then on a quiet afternoon he blinked, just once. Then again, his lips moved. Dry, cracked, barely sound. "Tiger," he rasped. I dropped everything. The book in my lap, the sandwich I hadn't touched. Took his hand, pressed my face into it, and sobbed. Real sobs, messy, loud, the kind I hadn't let out. Since I was a child, not when Dad yelled, not when Mom locked the door, not even when I ran away at 16. But this broke something open. I held his hand for hours, afraid that if I let go, he might slip away again. He was back, faint, but alive, and still mine. I made him a promise. "I'll take you home, Grandpa, to your chair by the window, your bitter tea, that stray cat you feed." He blinked slowly, like he remembered, like it mattered. I left the hospital that night for the first time in days. Heart full, tired but hopeful. I drove to his house, the place with ivy on the porch, rust on the gate, and his name still carved into the mailbox. But something was wrong. The porch light was off, the windows dark, and then I saw it. A crooked "WA for sale" sign in the yard, with a red sticker slapped across it. Mouthed. My heart stopped. Something was very, very wrong. I parked across the street, hands shaking, lights off inside the house. But someone was home. I walked up the path. The porch creaked under my feet. I knocked. A woman opened the door. Young, polite, confused. "My grandfather lives here," I said. Her head tilted. "No. We bought this house 3 days ago. It belonged to Harold Langston." My throat closed. "He's not dead," I whispered. "He's in the hospital. He's alive." She glanced over her shoulder. A man stepped beside her. We were told he passed, he said. I backed away. Numb. The only place Grandpa ever loved sold. Gone. For a second, I just stood there. Rain started falling light and cold, and then I understood. Someone sold this house. Without telling me. Without telling him. Only one person had the motive. And the cruelty. My father. I didn't cry. Not then. Not even when the door closed behind them and I was left standing in the rain. I walked back to my car, each step heavier than the last, hands wet, face colder than the wind. I sat in silence. No music, no words, just the sound of my breath, tight, sharp, controlled. There was no fight, no screaming match, no dramatic showdown, just one truth settling in my chest. He did this. Richard. My father. He told the world Grandpa was dead, just to sell his home. For what? Extra cash, another vacation. This wasn't a mistake. It was calculated. And if he could do this to the man who raised him, what else was he capable of? I gripped the steering wheel, eyes forward. If he thought he'd won, he had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I pulled out every file I could find. Hospital records, insurance forms, dates, signatures, stamps. I read them slowly, twice. Then again, there was no death certificate, no legal power of attorney, nothing authorizing the sale. But the deed was signed. My grandfather's name in handwriting that wasn't his. I knew that loop in the W. It wasn't Grandpa's, it was Richard's. There was also a notary stamp. Fake, easily proven, fraud, clear, cold, documented. I filed a quiet report. No noise, no warning, then I made copies of everything. Neat, labeled, stacked. While the law moved slowly, I started preparing the second blow, the will. Because Grandpa wasn't just alive, he was getting stronger. And this time, he would speak for himself. Grandpa was sitting up now. Thinner, slower, but present. Eyes steady, voice rough. I told him everything. The house, the lie, the signature he never wrote. He didn't flinch, just nodded once. I want to change the will, he said. Simple. Final. We took it slow, one sentence at a time. He dictated. I wrote. He removed Richard completely. Not 1 cent. Everything to charity, he said. And to you, Tiger. I asked if he was sure. He looked at me. I gave that man my name. He sold it for money. The paperwork was signed, filed, witnessed, legal. It wasn't revenge. Not exactly. It was clarity and closure. He gave me his story. Not to punish, but to protect what mattered. His words, not mine, but I would carry them. I kept everything locked in a folder, marked, dated, safe in the back of my closet. Then I waited. For the right moment. For Richard to come home. 2 weeks later, he returned from the Bahamas, tan, smiling, loud. He didn't call, didn't ask about Grandpa, didn't know he was alive. I watched him post a photo, cocktail in hand, caption, no stress, no strings. He thought he was untouchable. So I sent a message, simple, calm, dinner, he replied. Why not? Your treat. Of course, it would be. That night, I set the table, one seat across from mine, one envelope waiting in the center. Inside it, the beginning of the end. He walked in, reeking of cologne and arrogance, and I smiled, because I wasn't scared anymore. He sat down without looking at me, unbuttoned his jacket, poured himself a glass of wine. Fancy, he said. No occasion. I slid the envelope toward him. He smirked. What's this, some dramatic little essay? Read it, I said. He opened it, eyes skimming the first few lines. His chewing slowed, then stopped. Silence. He set the fork down, licked his lips. You're bluffing. No, I said. You're busted. I reached under the table, pulled out a second folder, neatly labeled, fraud complaint. He froze, didn't touch it, didn't breathe. Then a third, the new will, then a fourth. A notarized statement from Grandpa himself. You want to keep going? I asked. Or should I call the detective already working your case? His hands trembled. The king was crumbling, no throne left to hide behind. He tried to speak, but the words stuck, trapped between pride and panic. His face turned red, then pale, then nothing. I let the silence stretch. Let him sit in it, the same silence he gave me when I begged him to come back. He reached for the complaint file, flipped through it, his fingers shaky, eyes darting. "You do this to your own father?" he whispered. I leaned forward. "You did this to your own father." He looked down. "No more smirk, no more jokes. You forged his name, declared him dead, sold his home for beach photos. Still, no apology, just fear, cold and bitter." "You can't prove intent," he muttered. "I don't have to," I said. "They already are." He stood, stumbled slightly, but there was nowhere to go. The king had no castle left. The next morning he showed up at the hospital, hair uncombed, eyes red, shirt wrinkled like he slept in the car. He brought flowers, cheap ones, still in the store wrapper. He walked in slow, like someone else was pushing his feet. Grandpa was sitting up, tea in hand, blanket over his knees. I stood beside him, arms crossed, watching, waiting. "Dad," Richard said, voice small, weaker than I'd ever heard it. Grandpa didn't answer, just stared, quiet, still. Richard took a step forward. "I'm sorry. It was a mistake." No one moved, not even the clock. I panicked. I thought, "You forged my name," Grandpa said low and even. "You told the world I was dead." "It wasn't like that." Grandpa raised a hand, one small gesture, and Richard went silent. Grandpa looked at him, not angry, just tired. "You didn't panic," he said. "You planned." Richard's mouth opened, but nothing came out. "You were greedy," Grandpa continued, his voice steady, like stone under pressure. "You wanted the money, the trip, the freedom." Richard stepped closer. I didn't know what else to do. "You could have called me," Grandpa said. "You could have waited. But you didn't. You chose the easy thing, the selfish thing." Richard's eyes welled up, but no one reached for him. Grandpa turned to me. "Tiger," he said. "You ready?" I nodded. He reached for my arm, stood slowly, and we walked out, together. No goodbye, no last look. Just the quiet sound of a door closing behind the man who closed it on us first. We didn't say much on the drive, just the hum of the road and Grandpa's soft breath beside me. He watched out the window, hands folded, eyes calm. I had already found the place. Small, quiet, one story. No stairs to climb. There was a porch, a wide window facing east. Morning light spilled across the floor like it had been waiting for him. He stepped inside slowly, paused in the doorway, then smiled. "This'll do," he whispered. We set up his chair by the window, put his favorite blanket on it, hung the bird feeder outside. That afternoon he drank his bitter tea, watched the sparrows land and scatter. No noise, no drama, just peace. He had lost everything, and yet somehow he had more now than ever before. Each morning started the same. Grandpa in his chair, tea in hand, eyes on the sky. He didn't say much, but he didn't need to. The light hit his face soft, made the lines on his skin look like stories etched in time. Birds came and went. Sparrows, doves, even one stubborn crow that stole sugar packets off the porch rail. He chuckled the first time, just once, but it filled the room. I sat beside him, read him the paper, mostly the weather, sometimes the court notices. He never asked about Richard, not once, but I could tell he knew things weren't over. There was still weight in the way he held his cup, still tension in his silence. Healing had begun, but justice was still walking up the road. One afternoon, I checked the mail. A letter from the county court, another from the State Fraud Division, both addressed to Richard Langston, both marked urgent. I didn't open them, didn't need to. I already knew. His accounts were frozen, his name flagged in systems he thought he controlled. The house sale under investigation. The forged notary stamp traceable, registered to someone who'd never met him. The bank transfers pulled, every cent tracked. He thought no one would look, that we'd all forget. But paper doesn't forget, and the law, when it moves, moves hard. I placed the letters in a drawer, didn't text him, didn't gloat. Grandpa sipped his tea, eyes still on the birds. and I let the silence deliver the first blow. Let the world start holding him accountable. The Instagram posts stopped. No more beach sunsets, no more poolside smiles, no more lies dressed as happiness. His friends began to ask questions. Why was Richard so quiet? Where did he go? The answers never came. His office closed without warning. The company car disappeared. One of his clients left a comment on an old photo. Funny how fast some people fall. I didn't reply. Didn't need to. He tried calling me once. Just once. I let it ring, then blocked the number. This wasn't revenge. Not really. It was consequence. Raw, delayed, but earned. He burned down trust to buy himself a little sunshine, and now even the light didn't want him. Meanwhile, Grandpa watched the feeder swing in the wind, whispered birds know where home is. There were no headlines, no cameras, just documents moving through quiet offices. A slow grind of justice, unseen but certain. The district clerk confirmed a formal investigation had begun. Forgery, real estate fraud, elder abuse, each charge stacked like bricks on his back. Richard tried to deny everything, blamed a misunderstanding, blamed me, blamed stress. But the signatures didn't lie, the dates lined up, the money trail was clean and damning. His attorney reached out once, asking for a statement from Grandpa. We sent the signed affidavit, no commentary, just facts. Grandpa didn't ask for updates. He didn't need them. He trusted the truth, and he trusted me. Let it unfold, he said one evening as the wind moved through the trees. No fire needs help to burn when the wood is already dry. We didn't celebrate. There were no toasts, no speeches, just small things put back in place. I found Grandpa's old watch, the one Richard tried to sell. Still tucked in a box, unmarked, unwanted by the world, but priceless to him. He turned it in his hand, wound it once, then slid it on without a word. I brought his tool set home, the red one with the dented lid. He opened it slowly, touched each piece like greeting an old friend. We fixed the mailbox together, not because it was broken, but because he wanted to. Nails, wood, silence between us. Not empty, full. Each day now he walked a little farther, spoke a little more, not about Richard, not about the past, but about what we'd build next and what wouldn't be taken again. One morning a car pulled up outside, rental plates, dark windows. It sat there for a while. I watched from the kitchen, coffee in hand, heart steady. Then the door opened. Richard stepped out, alone, no suitcase, no swagger. He looked smaller, even from a distance, like something inside him had finally collapsed. I didn't move, didn't speak. Grandpa was already in his chair, tea steaming, eyes on the sparrows. Richard didn't come to the porch. He stood at the edge of the yard, hands in his pockets, waiting. I opened the door, didn't step out. He looked at me, red eyes, unshaven. I just want to talk. I shook my head. This isn't the place for that. He swallowed hard, didn't argue, then turned and walked back to his car. The car door shut, engine started, but he didn't drive away. He just sat there, hands on the wheel, staring at the house. Like it still belonged to him. But it didn't. Not anymore. The porch he painted once, now rebuilt by different hands. The window he broke in a storm, now sealed, framed with flowers. He didn't get to come back, just because he wanted to. Regret doesn't unlock doors you burn down. I watched from behind the screen door, breath even, feet grounded. Grandpa never turned to look, didn't speak his name, didn't need to. Some silences are louder than anything. Richard sat another minute, then drove off. No words, no promises, no second chance. The road swallowed him slowly like it knew he was never meant to stay. After he left, the air felt different. Not heavier, lighter. Grandpa exhaled long and low like he'd been holding something in for years. He didn't mention Richard, just reached for his tea, hands steady, eyes soft. I thought it would hurt more, he said quietly. It doesn't, I asked. No, he whispered, because I already lost him a long time ago. The birds returned. 3 sparrows, 2 doves, 1 crow that never stayed long. We watched them flutter and feed. Wind brushed the curtains. The sun warmed the floor. This wasn't victory, not really, but it was peace, hard-earned, deliberate, hours. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again, not because justice was done, but because he was still here, alive, safe, free from the weight that never belonged to him. That night, we sat on the porch as the sky turned the color of old denim. Grandpa rocked gently, mug resting on the rail, his fingers wrapped around the warmth. I used to think legacy was land, he said, or money, or keeping a family name alive. I listened, didn't interrupt. His voice had weight now, not heavy, just true. But it's none of that, he continued. Legacy is what stays behind when someone leaves the room. I nodded. Let the words settle. He looked at me, the corners of his mouth lifting. You stayed. A pause. Then softer. You didn't have to, but you did. I wanted to answer, but nothing I said would hold enough. So I just sat with him, quiet, present, and let the moment say what I couldn't. 2 days later, a letter came. Cream envelope, embossed seal, return address Richard's lawyer. I opened it slowly. Grandpa watched from his chair, saying nothing. Inside, an offer, a formal apology, a proposal to settle, some money, a line about healing the family. I read it twice, then set it down. Grandpa sipped his tea, never asking what it said. It's from him, I finally said. He wants to fix things. Grandpa looked at the window, then back at me. Some things don't get fixed, he said. They just get left behind. I nodded, felt the truth land right where it needed to. No reply was sent. No call was made. The letter sat on the counter until evening came and I dropped it quietly into the trash. The days grew slower, not heavy, just calm, like the world had finally stopped pressing in. Grandpa walked more, to the end of the street, then to the bench under the maple tree. He waved at neighbors, fed the cat that always showed up at 5. We didn't speak much about what happened, not because we avoided it, but because it no longer owned us. The storm had passed, and we were still here. I watched him read the same book twice, saw him smile at the same old joke in the crossword. Peace wasn't loud, it didn't announce itself, it just arrived and stayed without asking for attention. Richard still existed. Somewhere. But he was fading like dust after a door slammed shut for the final time. One morning I found Grandpa in the garage. Dusty light through the rafters, tools laid out, quiet music playing from an old radio. He was fixing a lamp, one I thought was junk, bent, rusted, missing its shade. But his hands moved slow, sure, like it mattered. This was your grandma's, he said without looking up. She loved soft light in the evening. I nodded, letting the memory hang in the air. Some things don't need to be new. They just need to be real. We worked in silence, passing screws, untangling the cord, wiping years off the metal. When it flickered back to life, he smiled, not big, but full. That lamp didn't fix the past, but it reminded us that not everything was lost. Some pieces you carry, some you gently repair. That night we plugged in the lamp. Its light was soft, almost shy. It didn't brighten the whole room, but it reached just far enough. Grandpa sat beneath it, book-open glasses low on his nose. He looked peaceful, like someone who had been through fire and come out without asking to be seen. Not a hero, not a victim, just a man who chose not to disappear. I watched him for a while, watched how he held his quiet, not as a shield, but as a choice. This was the kind of strong no one applauded, the kind no one noticed until it was gone. I thought of Richard, so loud, so full of himself, and I finally understood love doesn't roar. It stays, it repairs, it shines without needing to blind. A week later, another message came. Not a letter, not a call, just a voicemail left in the middle of the night. Richard's voice slurred, unsteady. He said he was sorry, said he was lost, said he missed how things used to be. Then silence, 30 seconds of breathing, and a click. I didn't play it for Grandpa. He didn't need that weight. Not again. Some doors once closed aren't meant to reopen. I deleted it, didn't save it, didn't flinch, because I knew the difference now between guilt and change. Richard wanted forgiveness without repair. A clean slate without the work. But we weren't the same people he left behind. We had already buried the past, and this time we weren't digging it back up. The next morning, I poured Grandpa's tea. Bitter, as always, just how he liked it. He sat in his chair, sunlight catching the silver in his hair. "Nice morning," he said. I nodded. "It is." No mention of the voicemail, no ghosts hanging in the air, just warmth. "Just now," he pointed to the feeder. "2 new ones," he said. "Never seen them before." I looked. Bright wings, hungry, fast, nervous in the breeze. "They'll come back," I said, "if they feel safe." He smiled, not with his mouth, but with his eyes. "We're not angry people," he said. "No," I answered. "But we remember." And that was enough. No revenge, no bitterness, just choice. To build, not burn. To live forward, not drag the past like a chain behind us. That afternoon, I found the chess set. Same board, same worn pieces, one black pawn chipped at the edge. I brought it to the table beside Grandpa's chair. He looked at it, then at me. "You remember how to play?" he asked. "Barely," I said. He smiled. "Good, let's see what stuck." We played in silence at first, just the soft tap of pieces, a game older than both of us. He moved slow, deliberate, eyes sharp behind tired lids. Halfway through, he looked up and said, "You always wanted to win too fast, and you always let me," I said. He laughed, really laughed. That sound, it didn't erase the pain, but it layered over it soft like dust on scars. Some games you play to win, others just to feel like time is still yours. Later that night, he asked me to get the old box from his closet. Top shelf, wrapped in cloth, I hadn't seen it in years. Didn't know it still existed. Inside little things, quiet things. A photo of Grandma faded, creased at the corners. Her smile soft, just like I remembered from stories. A train ticket from 1969. His first trip out west. Folded like it still mattered. A letter I wrote him when I was 10, spelling all wrong, heart wide open. He held each item like it breathed, like it still had weight. "These," he said, "are the things that stayed with me. Not money, not deeds, not names carved into brass. Just proof that love had happened here quietly without needing to be loud." He placed the box beside me, not handing it over, just letting it sit between us. "You don't have to carry my past," he said, voice low like a thought half whispered. "I know," I answered, "but I want to." He didn't smile. Not really. But his eyes softened like something unspoken had finally landed. "You've given me more than anyone ever did," I told him. "And you didn't owe me a thing." He shook his head slowly. "No, Tiger. I owed you everything because you stayed, because you saw me when others just looked. We didn't say much after that. Didn't need to. Love doesn't always show up with noise or grand words. Sometimes it's just a box of memories on a quiet night offered without asking for anything back." Every morning he sat in the same spot, that old wooden chair by the east-facing window. It creaked when he leaned back. Always did. But he liked it that way. Said it reminded him that things don't need fixing just because they make a little noise. The tea was always bitter, the blanket always folded the same, and the light, it always found him first. I watched from the hallway sometimes, not to check on him, but just to see it. See him still here, still choosing quiet over chaos. He'd murmur to the birds, not real words, just sounds that made them stay. That window had no view of anything grand, just a small yard, a feeder, and a patch of sky. But to him it was more than enough, because it was his. And no one could take it this time. Spring came slow, not loud, not sudden, just softer mornings and green that crept back without asking permission. The yard filled with weeds at first, then wildflowers, then color. Grandpa started planting again. Tomatoes, basil, a single row of marigolds just beneath the window. He dug with steady hands, knees in the dirt, face to the sun. I offered to help. He handed me a spade, then said nothing. That was the help he wanted. We didn't talk about what we lost. We watched what came back. Not everything did. Not trust. Not family as it once was. But soil didn't care who betrayed who. It only knew how to grow if given the chance. And maybe so did we. One afternoon, while folding laundry, I found his old cap. the one with his name stitched on the inside lining, Walter Langston. Faded thread, frayed brim, still held its shape. I brought it to him. He looked at it for a long time, didn't touch it right away. Didn't think I'd ever wear that again, he said. Thought Richard buried it with everything else. But it's still here, I said, and so are you. He placed it on his head. A quiet fit, like it had been waiting. I used to think my name didn't matter, he whispered. Now I know it only matters who carries it forward. He looked at me then, not as a child, not as someone broken, but as family, the kind you don't choose but are proud to keep. I found the photo one evening tucked in the back of a drawer. It was old, black and white, edges curled, grandpa, grandma, and a boy standing between them, small, awkward, trying to smile. Richard. I stared at it for a while. Not with anger, not even sadness, just stillness. He was part of this once, part of something whole. I showed it to Grandpa. He didn't flinch, didn't turn away. He was ours, he said, even if he forgot it. We didn't hang the photo, didn't frame it. But we didn't throw it away. Some pieces of the past don't deserve a pedestal, but they still belong in the box. Not to honor the person, but to remember what we survived and what we chose to become instead. It didn't come with headlines, no courtroom speech, no slammed doors or final blows, just a letter. Stamped, filed, verified. Richard was found liable. Fraud confirmed. Assets frozen. Sanctions in place, no jail time. But everything he built on someone else's back was gone. He didn't call, didn't write, didn't ask for another chance. And that in its own way was the clearest ending we could ask for. I told Grandpa over tea. He nodded once, didn't smile, didn't gloat, just said, I never needed him punished. I just needed him gone. The wind moved through the trees. Light shifted on the porch, and I knew we hadn't won with fire. We'd won with silence, with patience, with not becoming what he tried to make us. Grandpa's hands shake a little now. When he holds his cup, when he folds the paper, when he buttons his shirt. But they're still strong, still steady in the ways that count. He waters the marigolds every morning, tells me when the tomatoes look almost proud, and every now and then he calls me Tiger. Soft, like it never left his mouth. I stopped waiting for big moments, stopped needing loud joy to prove we were okay, because this is what love looks like. A man in a chair, tea in hand, watching the sky and knowing he's safe. It's not grand, it's not perfect, but it's real. And sometimes real is louder than anything that tries to pretend. He lost his house, his name, his son, but he got peace. And he gave me everything. He burned our past for a week in the sun. And I gave Grandpa a future without asking for anything back. Not revenge, not applause, just space. And silence where love could breathe again. I didn't scream, didn't rage, didn't drag his name through the mud he made. I let the truth do the work. Let the fire speak without needing flames. Some people earn consequences. Others earn peace. Grandpa earned in peace, and I earned the quiet knowing that I became nothing like the man who left us. He sits by the window still, same tea, same chair, same light, and when the wind moves just right, you can hear the feeder creak, the leaves shift, the world stay gentle. If you've ever been broken by someone who should have protected you, type, I stayed. And never forget, soft doesn't mean weak. If this story stayed with you, if it reminded you of someone you were or someone you've become, leave a comment. Tell us what part hit home. And if you're still healing, still learning to stay soft in a hard world, you're not alone. Subscribe for more stories like this, quiet truths, loud hearts, and the kind of endings that don't need to shout to be heard.